Alright guys, today's the day. Putting the engine back in the car.
I feel like somebody's watching me.
Not the prettiest thing, but she's in there. She fought us a little bit because we had to side load it, so getting the motor mounts to sit happy and the cross member took a little bit. That's it. Motor's in the bay, base painted. Hopefully we will not scratch things up too much and make some progress later this week. I'd like to get the transmission in it just to get everything set, and I can kind of start throwing some of the bigger parts back in. Still have to make a downpipe, exhaust, the recirc pipe for the wastegate to go back into the exhaust, new oil catch tank, just a bunch of little stuff here and there. It's going to take some time, so I think we're like 4.5 weeks from the first event now, so we'll be close if we make it. Well, from the first event I want to make it. There might be a small video in here. Jesse's car fired up yesterday. Thing sounds sick. Can't wait to see him drive it. So that event is next weekend, which I will definitely go to and be watching. But to make the April 11th event, be a little bit of a stretch on this car, so see what happens. Here we are, guys. Motor's in the car. I think that's where I left off, potentially. But I got the wiring just kind of laid back in there. Starting to make a catch can in that corner, so I needed to have the wires there just to see if they were going to be in the way of anything. It's nice, it can be pretty simple. Whereas can be putting in the clutch and flywheel assembly, hopefully maybe even throw the transmission in the car. So we're just going to throw this girl back in. Probably be a pretty short video. There's not a whole lot to it. I mean, we'll torque them to spec and sequence, crisscross pattern, red Loctite on the flywheel bolts. But yeah, that's about it. Guess we'll start getting to work. Here we go. Alright, first things first, put the pilot bushing in, which you just take a socket, something round, and just tap it into place with a hammer. Just real light, just make sure you're hitting it in square and it should go right in. So I used a 14mm, tapped her in place. She has a shoulder inside there, so it only goes so far and then you'll hear it stop. After that, don't forget to put on your spacer plate, I guess, between the engine and the transmission. Because if you forget to and you put your flywheel and your clutch on, you gotta take it all back off and put it on. So don't forget that part. Ask me how I know. Yeah, done it. Alright, we'll set the plate up there, and then I'll throw the flywheel up, bolt it on, and then we'll go with the clutch. Died, so not gonna have a lot of, obviously time-lapse stuff, but you're not missing much. Just tightening bolts. So the flywheel to crank is 105 to 112 foot-pounds. Once again, star pattern. And then the pressure plate, first sequence is 14, second is 22 foot-pounds, also star pattern. Nothing special on these. Pretty much all clutch discs now have a side that says flywheel, so you put them on the right direction. Essentially, the side that has some of the spring and hub assembly protruding is usually going to go towards the gearbox. You'll know if you put it on backwards because you won't be able to turn the disc. So make sure you put that on the right way. Didn't do anything special really. Just took some Scotch-Brite and cleaned up the mating surfaces. Make sure there wasn't any surface rust or anything. Hit it with some acetone, wiped it clean. Torqued everything down. Red Loctite on the flywheel bolts. I used blue on the pressure plate bolts, even though it doesn't call for it. So first thing I noticed, I'm missing my dowels on this block, so lining this up should be fun. But yeah, next thing we're going to pick up the transmission and put it on the back of the engine. Sketchy jack, supporting trans, a couple of bolts. that was fun. The little time-lapse camera died, so it's not like you missed much. Bolted on the flywheel, put the clutch on, torque pressure plate, Loctite everything. Threw the trans up, which you probably saw some of, which is a bit of a struggle. Put trans mount on. I mean, just tighten a bunch of bolts, nothing special, not a lot to it. If you got a service manual, just follow it. They'll give you a sequence. Mainly, they'll give you torque specs. But engine's in. Trans is now in. Everything's all bolted up, so that's all done. Sadly, I broke the speed sensor when I had to set the transmission down the first attempt. I think it landed on it and it cracked the housing, so I had to swap speed sensors around. And for anybody that's wondering, I just checked this on another the spare block I had. The oil filter housing, if you use the ports for where the factory dummy light goes for the oil pressure sensor, those are filtered ports. I just looked into it because my buddy's E30 BMW, the ports that come off that housing are pre-filtered. They're post-pump, obviously, there's pressure on them, but it's before it goes through the filter, not after. So he had to run a filter inline to his turbo. Well, I'm lucky enough that the ports on this thing are filtered. They actually go into the passage after the oil had passed through the filter, so that's clean oil that goes to your turbo. So good news there. I don't have to spend extra, I think it's like $35 for a little inline filter. But yeah, that's it for today. All that stuff's bolted in. Tomorrow night when I work on it, I might try like throw the drive shaft in there, maybe get the shifter and stuff in, just kind of get that all buttoned up, maybe get the interior kind of put back together, or not, or bolt the knuckles, coils, brakes, get that stuff bolted on because I need to mock up some stainless lines for new brake lines on the front too. So plenty of stuff to do. Figure out what I'm gonna do tomorrow. So till then, see you guys next time.